I just want you, I just want you to know that, Devin.
Thanks. I got that. I think we got it all now.
Let me rephrase that. So in case if you didn't know, I'm Derek Smith. I'm a year 16 graduate partners. Pleasure meeting you all. My take from this session will be talking about how to be not nervous, how to understand where you're coming from. But not only that, I want to hear here's his topic about how to be not nervous, how to speak really clearly about the issues that we're facing. And that's what I have right now. David.
Well, I'm David Calling. I'm a year 24 graduate, and I'm from Madison, and I believe that um, that yeah, no. This, yeah. So when I took the the testimony, I was able to express my thoughts, and I'm always willing to speak at any a conference or convention.
Hmm. Yep. Kevin.
Well, in the past, I find it's easier to share what I write when I write my story about my family than just trying to say everything in person.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it can be a lot to remember, especially when you get up there and you're in front of a group. And, even if it's a story we've told 100 times, those nerves still get to us. And we want to make sure that we get everything in. And so I think writing it down can be very, very helpful in those situations. Does anybody else want to share anything that they have or any thoughts about testifying?
For me, I would just sometimes they tell us they'll tell you how long of the testimony will last because it goes for an hour, hour and a half for the testimony, and then goes from there. So you're
Hmm.
getting timed.
Yeah, and there's a certain amount of time that you have to do that in.
I will just add that I get nervous too. And and when you're in a situation like that, I just don't know the right words to say because they had certain wording, when you were talking to the panel.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
a good thing we practiced it ahead of time.
Yep. How about you, McKenna, when you think of the issues that you're facing and told us about the Special Olympics deal, McKenna?
Um, the issues, I'm not sure, but I'm not sure of the issues, but I don't know.
Or you told them about the Special Olympics, what the movement is for Special Olympics, and you went to Washington, D.C. and told them a story about Special Olympics?
Mm-hmm.
You want to share that real quick?
I don't have it with me right now, but yeah.
Okay. I just I want to throw it out there for you. So,
So if everybody looks back or thinks back to their legislative session at Partners, so that weekend where we go up to the Capitol, is there any part of that that you really felt like you gained a lot from, or that you think other people should try to do? Like this is something that everybody should try once, whether
mhm.
that was sitting down with your bill coach and kind of looking through things, talking with other people in your group and kind of looking at the bill, talking with the legislators, any part of that or all of that, that you think it's like, oh yeah, people should definitely go through that or do that.
And also the
and also the
legislators too.
legislators
Yeah.
too.
Well, for me, my suggestion is when I go through um, when we did the legislative day at the Capitol, we've basically talked to the legislators, hand out like fruits and different things, but not only that, listening to a session in the House and the Senate, and that the the legislators, like like Joint Committee Appropriations, tells a story behind what issues that you're facing right now, like transportation, Medicaids, federal support, and other issues that we're facing right now. How about you, David, when you went through the legislative day?
Oh yeah, I was, yeah, I got to learn about like the bills and the issues and I got and we got to tour to the different houses and listen to testimonies. And for Disability Awareness Day, I got to meet the senators and I know one of them because from the county that I used to live in, which was from Lander County, and I learned how to to talk to a senator and tell him where you're from.
And also the representative as well.
Yep.
McKenna, how about you when you went through the legislative day and have you heard any um, issues that we have from House and Joint Committee Appropriations or Senate?
Oh yeah. So like recently or like
Like when we did the handing out fruits and hearing the like House and Senate
mm-hmm.
and Joint Committee Appropriation. Tell us
Oh
about.
yeah, there was well recently there was like currently there is a lot of stuff going around like on Disability Scoop. I follow that and it's horrible. And a lot of like laws are being passed which are not like which is bad, which is literally so bad. But anyways, back to Derek's question. So yes, there was I think there was sort of issues, kind of not, but
Mhm.
when I went there, but not that I know of, no.
Because
Yeah, so we're just for those people that just joined, we're just talking about our January session of partners. Just that time, if there was something during that weekend that you saw or did that made you really
right,
think, like, oh yeah, this is super beneficial. I'm glad that we were able to do this, whether that's going over the bills, like with your bill coaches, or even getting to talk with the bill coaches
right.
and just kind of look at the bill and break it down, working with the people that was in your group, talking with the legislators, um, really any part of that, even the breakdown afterwards. I know a lot of times they go over like this is what happened during our session. I know last year we had a really great. Was there anybody from our class last year here? No, but we had a real like our legislators last year were really great. They pushed and did everything possible that you could do with a bill to make sure that we really understood
Mhm.
what that process looks like. Obviously, it's not the things that would necessarily happen, but they had a lot of fun with it and really showed us what kind of turns and things that a committee meeting can take. So
Yeah. And I, for me, I think McKenna and David, you probably know this, but when we went and listened to the House and House and Joint, House and Senate, and then plus Committee Appropriations, that was really good hearing that stories. But not only that, I think that it goes really well. But because of that issue that we're facing right now with transportation here is really hard to think about it. And the issue of Medicaid and different situations. You want to explain that, McKenna? When they,
Oh boy. I've heard that that they're I don't want to scare anyone, but like I've heard that they're taking away Medicaid, but I'm not sure. I heard rumors about that. I heard rumors that we're going in institutions, but no, we're not. So, that's what I take from, but like I don't like the word institution. We're not going back to institutions.
I am going to let
Um,
in here. Just
all
one
right,
second.
all right.
so yeah.
Yeah,
Hi, good morning, Steve. Afternoon, I guess. How are you?
it's on mute yet. There you go.
Hi.
Hi. We were just doing a little introduction of, I was just kind of giving them a little bit of information about you, and
Oh,
kind of how
how'd I come off?
you, I think pretty good. So we were just kind of revisiting that week in January that we all come up and we get to work with legislators and stuff. And so got a little bit of a recap, but I will hand it off to you whenever you're ready.
Well, I have for those of you, and I'm glad you're doing this. I appreciate that. Um, I sent to Devin my notes, which is kind of like a magic trick. You know, if you've actually seen my notes, then maybe it takes all the fun out of the presentation. But I thought if in fact you have a chance to see those, then you don't have to stress quite so much about taking any kind of notes as you go along, because everything I'm going to talk about is right in there. So you're sure welcome to do whatever you want. And I also want to make sure that this isn't a monologue. Devin been probably the early iterations of this. I don't know how many years we've been doing this, but we've done this little presentation in a day and a half, literally in the past. I think we narrowed it down to 3 hours the last time. So I've never ever done a refresher in an hour. So I don't want it to be a monologue, and I don't want to stand here and yell at you because that's just not even appropriate or even a desirable thing either. So I want to make sure that you didn't have to worry too much about keeping track of it all, because those notes are essentially, I asked her to send those along to you. So you can have those whenever you want. So you don't have to stress. You can just listen. You can enjoy yourself. And then if you've got any questions while we're going along, I would encourage you to ask them, because, like I said, it's really more of a dialogue than anything else. So, knowing that we've got an hour, let's just go right to it. What Devin has asked me to do, and what we've done in the past, and I think you kind of been through this before a little bit. We're going to talk about the legislature. We're going to do a who, what, and why, and then we're going to talk about testifying and your relationships with the legislators. So, the who, what, and why in my book and in our universe is just exactly the legislature. You know, who are they? Who makes them up? And then the what is how a bill becomes law, and then the why you need to participate. And I'll admit my bias. This last year was my 36th legislative session. I was a political science communications major. I love this kind of stuff, this policy stuff, but it can be a little intimidating. It's also really hard to look from the outside and see that it makes any sense at all. But what I can do for you and what I will do for you is absolutely demystify it. I can take all the mystery out of it right away. Um, so we're going to do that. So my mission today is to give you some sense of comfort with the legislators, give you a sense of how they fit within the larger group of the executive branch and the judicial branch and the legislative branch, give you a sense of where they are and how they fit, and then talk about how you engage with them and how you can get some work done, and then why that matters. And it matters a lot. It doesn't matter just because I like it or it matters because I've got an interest. I mean, it sincerely matters, and you'll understand when we're done. So with that, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of kick right into this thing. Um, and I put in there, you'll see, start with this teaser. I talked about this a little bit last time, but you've all got an ability that I don't have. You've got a superpower that I don't have. And it's a powerful one, and it's a big ass deal. And I apologize right out of the gate, Devin, for saying ass, because I promised not to curse. The but you've got a secret, and you've got some power that I don't, and it's a big deal. And we'll talk about that later when we kind of go through it. So let's talk about the legislature. In my 1 hour thing, I kicked out an awful lot of the history. The history stuff is fun for me, and context matters. I like to know kind of where it fits. So, I'm in my office in Pierre, across the river, Fort Pierre. Fort Pierre was the first historical settlement in South Dakota, 1817. So, a long time ago. So think about that. 80 after that. So just about 80 years later, we became a state. So we were here a long time before South Dakota legislature organized and the Constitution organized. North and South Dakota did it at the same time. It was kind of fun. They did it at the same time. They shuffled the papers. They usually let North Dakota go first. They're 39th, we're 40th. So we did that intentionally to elect our first governor, is why they did that, and to adopt, hi, David, and to adopt a constitution. So that constitution is what drives the train. That's the one that's got all the rules. That's the one that's got everything that comes along. And it's really a short read. I don't expect you to read the Constitution, but you really can. It's really easy to do. And it's right on that South Dakota legislative website. So it's really easy to read. And it's a fun one because if you like that sort of stuff, it spells out all the rules for the legislature, for the governor, for the judiciary. And the Constitution's been changed over those, some 100 and plus years. So it's been changed, but that's essentially got all the rules in it. And those rules are the ones that are going to govern most of the legislative stuff. So, and the Constitution is very specific. It divides what it calls the power of the government, because government's got a lot of power. It's big and it's got a lot of influence just because of its size. It divides the power of the government in those three departments, and they call them departments. So that's the executive branch, the legislative, and judicial. So what that means is that generally the legislature makes the laws. The governor's office and the executive branch enforces it, and the judicial branch interprets the laws. There's always overlap between the tension. They all want the authority. They all like the power. They all like the influence. They all want to get stuff done. It's all easier if you don't have to mess with the others. So they all would wish they had the whole shillelagh, but they don't. So it's a check and balance. They fight between each other all the time. There's always overlap. It's just the nature of the deal. But the system really, really works. And for the legislatures, a lot of stuff I'm going to talk about comes right from that constitutional stuff. So within that, what they do is it's got everything from the maximum number of representatives, senators, it's got term limits, it talks about how much money they get, the legislative districts, the oath. I mean, everything in there that's related to the legislature is right there in the Constitution. And it's easy. I'm going to talk about a website for those of you that like to get on the websites. The South Dakota Legislature, it's southdakotalegislature.gov. It's a real easy one. It's right where the LRC is, and you can Google it. But that one's got a copy of the Constitution, and it's got a lot of other stuff in it too. So it's real easy to find this kind of stuff. And I'm going to direct you to that one too for the legislative stuff. We'll send you over there as well. So when you get down to the legislature, they met when they first started all those years ago, they met every other year, and then decided that we got too much business for that. So they went to every year. So we went every year since 64. So we've been doing that for 60 plus years every year. And it's a really short session. And that matters because they allow 40 days. They traditionally schedule about 37, 38. So the reason that matters is a lot of stuff happens in that amount of time. And they move so much stuff through in those 40 days that you have to kind of pay a period. You have to pay attention to the time frames, and you have to pay attention to that kind of stuff because it's a lot to manage in 38 days. So they say that they're going to start the second Tuesday of January. So it's right there in the Constitution. So we're starting again, you can see we start January 12th this upcoming year. They've scheduled 37 days, and then March 31st is veto day, the 38th day. They always give themselves an extra day or two in case something blows up. in case something come along they hadn't figured on, in case something that they hadn't anticipated, or else they can't get agreement on the budget. So they give themselves a little bit of leeway when it comes through that. So on that particular one, I didn't really think, I don't think of myself as really old, but last year they celebrated the 100th legislative session, which sounds, 100 is a pretty big deal. And I thought, oh my God, I've worked for a third of the legislators since we've been in statehood. Then I kind of felt old at that time because that is pretty old. So every year for a long, long time, short amount of time, really intense. But you think about your friends and you think about your parents or yourselves. Almost every job's got a season. This is kind of their season. They meet in January, February because that's when the farmers were able to come to Pier. And at the time we all started off, we had an awful lot of farmers and ranchers in the legislature. So we started because they could do that in January, February. It's changed a little bit since then, but that's why they meet at that time of year. So in the Constitution, it says that we shall have one district for as many senators as we have. Well, we've got 35 senators, and that's the max that we're allowed. So that means we have 35 legislative districts. So what that means is they divide the state into 35 equal legislative districts. And you think about how big your town is that you live in, it kind of makes sense. I live in Pierre, we're about 13,000. So, 13,000, if a district, that means the district is a lot bigger than Pierre, where I'm at. In District 24, it's a lot bigger than Pierre because if you're just in a little town of 1,000, then your district's going to be pretty big because the districts you can see they shoot for about 25,000 because you got to divide our state by 35. So you might be, if you're out there in a small town and you're out in one of those remote counties, you're going to take a lot of counties. You're going to make up that legislative district. If you're in Sioux Falls, where you've got, what are we up to now? 200,000 probably in Sioux Falls. That means that you're going to have about 10 districts in Sioux Falls. And the magic to those districts is they're required by law and they're pretty good at it, is they're supposed to use ordinary boundaries. So they use cities and they use counties and they use rivers and they use the mountains and they use county lines. And so it's absolutely political because they fight about that kind of stuff all the time because you heard about gerrymandering, they manipulate a little bit those edges of the district, but it's really only on the edges. But those districts matter because that's going to be where your legislature comes from. That's where they're going to come from because they're accountable. They get elected to represent the people in their district. Well, that's going to be you. So the other legislators are going to care because they've got a heart and they're going to care because they have an interest in other things, but they weren't elected by you. And you can't hold them accountable. You can't vote against them. You can't, go to the Cracker Barrels, make a lot of noise. So your district matters and your area matters because those are going to be the ones that are going to be the most receptive to what you're talking about. So as that goes on, okay, so that's one of the things in terms of the legislature itself. I'm going to talk a little bit about how the bills become a law because that matters, and we'll do that a little bit. And then you can see those paragraphs there. That's from Bob's notes to me, telling be sure and do this stuff. So I'm going to get to that. We're going to talk about how a bill becomes a law. We're going to talk about why you need to participate as soon as I tell you a little bit more about them. So on the who part, it doesn't pay. The legislators, it's not a high paying job. They used to make about 12,000 over the course of 2 years. They're 2-year terms. So that's $6,000 a year. You can't, it's 3 months, so that's not bad, but you can't live on $6,000. But that was kind of the idea. They didn't want anybody making a living from the legislature. They wanted people to go home. They wanted people to be accountable to their district. They wanted people to be accountable to their friends. They wanted people to be able to find them. So they made it a part-time job and they did that intentionally, which means that everybody that's out here has a real job or they're retired and they had a real job. So everybody out here doesn't do it for a living. Everybody that's out here is still part-time. So they're still pretty human. They still live stuff and they still get exposed to stuff. I live in town, like I said, I live in Pierre. So our U.S. Senator, former Governor Rounds, is from Fort Pierre. Michael go to Walmart. It takes him 2.5 hours to get out of Walmart. In a minute there because everybody just grabs them. You go to a ball game, everybody just grabs them. Well, it's the same way with the legislators. So everybody that's there is accountable. They're easy to find, they're easy to get to, and they did that intentionally. They gave him a pretty good bump about 8 years ago and said, okay, That's not enough money. And really, we ought to make it easier for other people to serve. Let's not make them rich and let's not make it full time, but let's just give them an opportunity to serve. So how do we figure out how to pay that? So what they said is that, okay, they're working about 3 months. That's probably in a 12-month system. That's 20% of the year or so, probably not quite, maybe a little more. So let's do that. Let's just give them a fifth of the South Dakota median household income. So they don't have to mess with it. Goes up a little bit every year, but that takes them up still now to where they're making about $16,000. And that's not bad, but same thing. Nobody's going to feed a family on $16,000. You're not going to make a living on it. So it's a little better than it used to be, but they're still going to be ordinary people and they're still not making a lot. So the point to that, I guess, is that they're just like you and I. They're all pretty good people. Um, you go continue on. They get a little bit of money for meals. They get a little bit of money for the room. But the other thing that happens in there, and it makes sense too, is that because it's only 3 months and it's really intense, and we just go night and day for 3 months, it means that some jobs can handle that more than others. So the people that are going to be out there that you're going to see are going to be either professionals that have the ability to get away from work for a little while. A lot of them are retired. There's a lot of business owners. We got some farmers and ranchers. And you can see it's my unofficial list down below that. So professionals, it depends on how you count them, but whether you work for somebody or you're a nurse or however, we count as a professionals. But it lends itself to people that can get away from their job for about 3 months. So you kind of know who you're dealing with, but that also means that most of the time they're kind of accomplished. A lot of times they're on a school board, a lot of times they're on a town, city council, a lot of times they work for the county commission. So when they came to the legislature, it wasn't the first time they ever did that. So the point of that is that they're just ordinary people. And they're going to be a lot like if you took 105 people, because there's 105 in the legislature, if you took 105 people randomly in South Dakota and threw them a room together, they're probably not going to be too much of a different makeup than you're going to have in the legislature. They're approachable. They want to know stuff. They want to do a good job for you. And literally, they work for you because you vote for them and they're in your district. So, I mean, literally, they work for you. So we're also at this moment really, really Republican, and that's okay. Um, I was here when the Democrats controlled the Senate, so that's a long time ago. And we've gotten more and more conservative as time goes on, and that's okay too. You're going to work with whoever's there, it really doesn't matter. But it matters to your purposes because it means that with the Republicans in charge, you're going to almost have to have a Republican. Because if they come up with an idea that is really, really good, then if the Dems do, then the Republicans will probably steal it, or they'll just kill it and do it themselves because they're not going to want to give the Dems any credit. So it does get a little political out here a little bit. So, but you're going to almost have to have a Republican almost no matter what you're doing. Now, when I thought, okay, we're all Republican, oh no, everybody in Congress, everybody in the legislature, all of our elected officials, oh my God, that makes us really, really red, really, really conservative. But you know what? It's not quite that crazy. About half the states are that way. And a little bit fewer than half of the states are Democrat, the other direction. And then the other 11 are kind of divided. So South Dakota is not unique in that sense. So we don't have to defend ourselves to anybody because we're the same. But you can see 62-8 Republican Democrat in the House, and it's 32-3 Republican Democrat in the Senate, which is kind of amazing that there's that few Democrats. So what that means for you is that you pretty much have to have a Republican. Now I put the other one in there for you guys. The registration's going up at an all-time high because in South Dakota, if you're an independent or a Democrat, you can't vote in the primary, in the Republican primary, and they're mostly Republican races. So you can see the numbers, but the Republican numbers are growing up a lot. But there's more people in South Dakota that are independents than are Democrat, and about half of the Republicans are independents. So that's much more common than it used to be as well. With those numbers in the legislature, they can do anything they want. Um, which means they can pass budget, they can suspend the rules, they can overturn vetoes. With two-thirds, you can do anything you want. But they're accountable to each other, and they're accountable to you, and they're accountable to the public, and they're accountable to the voters. So, yeah, Devin, you got a question?
Yeah, just if I know it's been a while since some people heard
Yeah.
you speak, can you explain a little bit what suspending the rules is?
What, Devin? Explain what?
Suspending the rules.
In the rules?
Where it says they can suspend the rules, raise taxes, that part.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, just a
Yeah.
little bit what that means.
Yeah. The when it says suspend the rules in that particular case, like the rules of decorum within the body, it means that they can move people around on committees if they choose to. It means that they can decide that two-thirds that something doesn't need a two-thirds vote, that it only needs a majority vote. It means that all the rules that come along with their own operations, they can suspend. So that probably should be clear that it's not an administrative rule reference. That's more of an internal reference for their purposes. So, and that matters when it comes to taxes. That matters when it comes to things that an emergency clause that take effect immediately. It means that with two-thirds, they can do anything that they can essentially sell. It means that if the gov vetoes them, that they can roll them over and they can overturn it pretty much easy if they want to. So yeah, that'd be more of an internal role, Devin, and that's a really great question. So that's more for them than anything else. Um, Bottom line, and you can see they're really, really hardworking, capable, good people that are there for the right reasons, trying to do the right thing. They're a lot of fun. They have a lot of personality. You know, if you guys were a legislator tomorrow, that means you had to put yourself on a ballot. It means you had to go out and talk to people and you had to ask them for their vote. And you probably had to ask them for money if it could help raise a campaign because it costs money to do this stuff. That's not easy for anybody to do. So they deserve a little bit of credit and a lot of thanks for just the fact that they're doing that. So because they care enough about this place that they're doing it. So as the years gone on, I've got a lot of lifelong friends out of that group. And yeah, and they're sensationally good people. They really, really are. So they're doing it because they care in pretty much all those cases. So what that means then, I'm going to talk a little bit about term limits because that's where it starts to get where it matters for you all. I'm not a fan of term limits, but we're not going back. That's the way it is. They're 2-year seats. So they're elected for 2 years. And you can get reelected 4 times. So you can serve 8 years in either the House or the Senate. Well, what that means is that in the past, 20 to 30% of them would turn over every 2 years. Every seat's up every 2 years. So in 105, 25, 30 of them would be new. So what that means is they come in there and they don't know a lot about an awful lot of subjects. We talked about that in the other classes. If you're a teacher, you're going to know a lot about education. If you're a farmer, you're going to know a lot about farming and ranching. If you're a mechanic, you're going to know an awful lot about that. But these guys come in, about a third of them come in every 2 years, and there's a lot of things they don't know, and they would be the first ones to tell that to you. Well, that's where you come in. That's also where the lobbyists come in. Because, like I said, in 36 years, I've lobbied for the firefighters for 33 years. There's not much about fire service that either I don't know the answer to or I can't find somebody that knows the answer to it. So I'm a pretty good resource, and as soon as they figure that out, then they ask me. Um, so we'll talk a little bit about what lobbyists do, but what that means for term limits is that they come in a lot. I went back and looked. One of those years it was really slow. I just made a number up and I said, okay, how many of these guys have been here for 15 years? So I did it last year. So from 2010, one of them only remains. So that means of the 105 people that are making decisions about the laws that affect you all, only one of them has been there longer than 15 years, which is kind of amazing to me. So what that means is that they're not going to know a lot about what you guys are going through. They're not going to know a lot about your experiences. They're just not going to know a lot. About the time you teach them, then somebody's going to be gone, then they're going to be gone. So the advantage of term limits, and that's what we talk about, is yeah, I suppose it gives an opportunity for people new to serve, and that's probably a good thing. There's a lot of fresh perspective, and there's probably people who would not be able to get there if some of the old guys remained. But the disadvantage is that you don't have people that have been around for a long time that know the subject matter. Um, I lobbied for the adjustment training centers for probably 15 years. And Joel Dykstra served for a long time. And Joel's a pretty good friend. And Joel ran for Congress from South Dakota. But he served in the legislature for a long time. Joel's got a special needs daughter. And she's just a jewel. She died here about a year ago. And so Joel knew an awful lot about the day-to-day experiences that go along with that and the challenges that come along with that and everything that come along with that. And so he was receptive. So part of our job is to find people in there that have a sense of what you're going through and what we're going through and what the issues are. Well, that's a lot harder if they turn over all the time because you just don't know them. It's really hard too, and it won't matter to you too much, but it's really hard in the agencies. If you're a 20-year chairman of any committee, we'll just say ag because it's completely different. If you're listening to agricultural related stuff and you hear all the pros and all the cons and all the professionals and all the commentary for 20 years, you're going to know a lot about agriculture. Well, that's really handy for the agencies. But as they're all coming and going, nobody knows. They just don't know. But that also puts you in a good spot because it makes them eager to learn. It also makes them kind of hungry for the knowledge that you've got. So it's a real challenge, but we've got them. So what that does for us. So now we're going to talk about how a bill becomes, we're going to talk about now this process, how this works in this whole things. They'll do about 500 bills, sometimes 550. You can see last year they did 571 bills. Governor signed, so about half of those, not quite half of those passed. So the governor signed about half of them the year before. They're 553. So they're on that 500 bills. So what that means in a nutshell is the process is the same all the time. Once a bill arrives in the system, and it comes from a couple different places, it either comes from legislators who would be carrying the stuff that we bring, or it comes from agencies, or it comes from the governor's office. So the executive branch got responsibilities for the agencies, so they kind of bring a package of stuff. So of those ones that were signed, I didn't look, the 238 that were signed, probably 100 of them came from the state agencies, were pretty small stuff. So an awful lot of those are the easy ones. It's a lot harder to pass stuff than it is to kill it, or to kill stuff than it is to pass it. So what happens up there, and the process is really simple. We were talking about this, it's a golf phrase too. It's simple, it's not easy, but the process is simple. They sit in front of a committee, and a committee of 9 to 13 people, depending on which body you're in, and they'll hear from the proponents, the advocates, they'll hear from the ones that like it, and then they'll hear from the opponents, the ones that don't like it, and then they're going to have questions from the committee, and then they're going to take action. And so the process is the same for every bill, every committee, all the time. Now, absolutely, that gets manipulated a little bit, and sometimes in bad ways, but not always. Sometimes there are just so many bills that are assigned to a particular committee that they limit the testimony on it. So I kind of smiling when Devin said that we could go for an hour, and thinking, man, we did that, in a day and a half in the past. I do it in an hour. Well, we've prepared, 30-minute testimony and been told we have 2.5 up there. So, or there's 15 people lined up, and we've divided up all the subject matter so everybody can do a little bit different, but hit the whole big picture. And they say, oh no, I've only got time for 3 of you. So the kind of stuff happens all the time, but the process is the same. So it'll go to the committee, and then if it passes, they'll send it onto the floor, which would be if you're in the House, they'll send it onto the House floor. And then if it gets out of the House, it goes to the other side, and they repeat the process, committee floor. So committee floor, and then reconcile. If both sides pass it, then they'll send it on to the Gov. If one side changes it, they'll send it back over to the author and say, what do you think of the changes? Do you like those? And if they like them, then they'll just accept the changes, and then they'll send it to the Gov. If they don't, they'll put together a committee and they'll reconcile the differences. So it's really simple, the process is. Like I said, it's not easy, but it's really, really simple. So for your purposes, you're going to have a couple of things. It's going to be committee work, or it's going to be having your person on the floor. We don't get a chance to speak on the floor. We write speeches for legislators all the time. We give them notes all the time. But when they're talking about an issue on the floor, your opportunity for testimony, your opportunity for impact, your chance to talk to them personally is going to come in the committee probably. Otherwise, it's going to come from an individual speaking in your behalf on the floor. But that's the way that it works. And like I said, with 40 days, deadlines matter. So you can see last day for a bill introduction, January 28th, that means that I said we start on the 12th. So that means everything that's going to be in front of them, they're going to know in about 2-3 weeks. So that makes things easier for us. It also means that bills got to get out of the House They're in the House by the 23rd of February. Senate bills out of the Senate by 23rd of February. It means that the system moves along and they really, really try to pay a lot of attention to that process because process matters because you're doing 550 bills in 38 days, and that's just a lot. So they try to manage it as best they can. The other thing is that in South Dakota, they have to consider every bill. In some states, if the chairman doesn't like the bill, they just pocket it. They never ever give it a hearing. In South Dakota, every bill gets a hearing. So everything gets a hearing. So that means that somebody has to do it. It means that somebody's got to bring it. It means that you need a sponsor, which means you're going to need a legislator. You're going to need somebody that's come along with it. So if Devin comes up with a sensational idea for legislation, she's going to have to find somebody to introduce that for her. Odds are it's going to be somebody in our district, somebody that we know, somebody that she's got a relationship with. If it's not somebody in her district, it's somebody that knows the issue or that has an interest in the issue. So an awful lot of our job is to find those people because just like yourselves, when you sit around with your group of friends, you're going to have friends that are experts on different things. Well, in most cases, if you don't know, you're going to defer to that expert. They're the same way. You're going to ask a farmer about farm issues. You're going to ask an insurance agent about insurance agents. You're going to ask a banker about bank issues. They're the same way. They talk to each other all the time. So an awful lot of the lobbyist job is to get a sense of who those legislators are so we can find somebody that wants to help us. We're going to work our district for sure, but an awful lot of times we're trying to find somebody that can help us or somebody that wants to help us and somebody that has a stake in it. So because they're the ones that make a difference. The other part about lobbyists is that, man, they are everywhere. And that's not a bad thing. You think about it. You probably, and I said this, I think the last time we were in Pier, and you're probably already represented by 3, 4, 5 different lobbyists because it just makes sense. Everybody that's up here that's affected by what goes on in the legislature has a lobbyist. If you don't, then they just do stuff in your absence. They just do things to you because nobody's there. Nobody's even usually even aware. So everybody's got a lobbyist. So you can't swing a dead cat up there without hitting a lobbyist because there's a million of them. There's also an awful lot of lobbyists that come along with the agencies because that makes sense too. If you're going to ask, the Department of Revenue about some financial stuff, then they bring over an expert. If you're going to ask somebody about economic development, then GOED will bring over an expert. If you want to ask somebody about lakes and dams, then Dana is going to bring over an expert. So there's no shortage of people that are lobbyists that work for the state that are over there, and there's no shortage of our groups that lobby. So everybody's got there. So when they say the lobbyists are evil and lobbyists are bad, that's not true. What it means is that if we're up there and if I'm up there lying and cheating and stealing, then the place is going to throw me out. So it just doesn't work the way that you usually hear. It's a really good soundbite, but I'm going to assume you guys are all smarter than that because that's just the way the process works. So, and I put it in my notes too. The last time I cut, there were 300 and almost 320 just private lobbyists. And that's a lot. Now, all of them aren't up there all the time, but a lot of them there most of the time. So the thing about that process that might be the most interesting to me is that what that means is you think about floor committee, committee floor, governor, is that junk doesn't usually survive. It means if something is really, really nonsensical, then it just doesn't survive because first, they don't have time for that sort of stuff. They also don't have any interest in it. If it's just totally kooky, then they don't have to do anything about it. And they won't. So they'll just kill it. So stuff that's really bad ideas, maybe sometimes pass, but not very often. Usually the place has got a way of ferreting out all the junk and getting rid of all the crap, and they do a nice job of doing that. So while all of that stuff's going on, the lobbyists are up there talking to people and talking to everybody. And so that's what we'll have you do, and that's what I do. I'm up there saying, have you seen Senate Bill X? Senate Bill 1, we'll make up a number, and they'll say, no, I haven't. I say, well, it's up in your committee next Thursday. Would you take a look at it? I can answer any questions, and I can talk to a little bit about it. Can we schedule some time so we can do just that? And they will. They always will because they want to know when they sit in that committee exactly what's going on. They want to make the best decisions that they can. So they're going to have a real interest in talking to you, and they're going to have a real interest in taking care of you. So it's really easy to get yourself in the middle of all that stuff, and it's really, really important. So at a minimum, you need to make sure that you're watching stuff so that you're not hurt. And it won't be because they're intentionally going after you. It just might by accident. Either somebody takes a source of funding, somebody complicates your lives, somebody thinks things that make it harder for you or the people around you or your caregivers, pick one. Sometimes that stuff's just done by accident because they just don't know. So an awful lot of our time up here is just playing defense, just letting them know what goes on and talking to people so they're aware when that kind of stuff comes around that they just can't allow those kind of things to happen. So, and this is the part where it comes, I'm going to mention a little bit about your superpower and why you matter. Because for me, now remember I said 36 years, they expect me to know the system. They expect me to know my way around. They expect me to know the legislators. They think that by God, if I'm going to run that long, that I really know all this stuff. They don't expect you to. And they are so, so thankful and grateful for the opportunity to serve. And they know that it comes from ordinary South Dakotans. It's not the lobbyists. It comes from the people that are out there, that they will do anything to help you. So if you're nervous about it, that works for you. If you don't really know how the process works, that even kind of works for you too, because they will help you. So if you're trying to decide whether or not to reach out to somebody to talk to them about them, you can just do that because they're going to be really grateful. And it's going to be pretty easy to make a contact. And we'll talk about how to do that too, because it's really easy to get them in that position. But they don't expect you to know your way around up there. And that's pretty cool because you don't have to. That means that you can stumble. It means that if you take a little longer to tell the story, it means if you take a little longer to the point, you got to be respectful of their time. But they're not going to expect you to have it all nailed down. They're not going to expect you to have it all reduced to a little elevator speech. That's just not their way. So if you've got an idea and it's a good one, they'll take all the time in the universe to listen to you because they really sincerely care. They won't do that with me. They know that I'm on a mission. They know I want to talk to them about something. They either got a question for me, so they're going to be a lot shorter with me. They're going to be a lot more abrupt with me than they will be with you. And I can't get over that, but you can. So it's really, really going to be helpful to you as time goes on that you know them and that you participate. So the idea behind why you have to do this stuff is pretty simple. I mean, you can you can just choose not to and just accept everything that have happened to you. But I don't know that you certainly don't want to do that with the legislature. I don't know if you want to do that in your life. You just want to just sit there and let everything happen to you. No, you got to play. You got to rule. You got to try to take control over some things. You got to work on some things. I mean, there's things you can control, there's things you can't. But you can't just accept everything. I mean, you want to accept a lot of it, but some things you just need to get involved with. And this is one of those things because it sincerely makes a difference what they do out there. They're big enough that they can affect everything that you're involved with and everything that you're doing. So the way to do that, and we're going to talk about this. So now we'll get to the point to where it really kind of matters because the way that works, and flip that last page, that how to lobby effectively, that one there. That's the one. And you guys can go through those notes a little bit as time goes on, but flip to that last one because that's where we're going to spend the closing part of this thing on. A little bit further. Right there you are. Okay. In the end, if any of you have brothers and sisters or parents, which you know you can't make them do anything. You just can't. You will do this. Yeah, well, no. Good luck. I say that to my kids or my wife, and it just doesn't happen that way. You will do this. Yeah, right. No, watch me. So that's the way it is up here too. But they might want to. And the other thing, when I say play the long game, is you have to accept the fact that if all of us, or even all of them, die tomorrow in some crazy tragic accident, then you know what? They'll appoint 100 new five, and they're going to come back next year. So they're never going away. That legislature is going to be there a long time. So you have to treat it the same. So first thing you do is you know the subject. Well, you already have a step forward on that subject. Become an expert in your field. Well, you already are an expert in your field because you know what your experiences are. You know some of the challenges you have. You know what you're going through and the people around you are going through. They don't have any of that stuff. So first thing you want to do is know more about the subject than anyone else. And that already, you're already light years ahead of your legislators when it comes to this particular case. And you can do that, use the resources that are available to you. Reach out to Devin, reach out to Bob and figure out a way, use the information that's available to you because it will make you smarter. And all it will do is just add to the advantage that you already have because of what you do and because of your life experiences. I put it again there, that's SouthDakotaLegislature.gov. It's a fun site. Now, fun for political science guys, I dig it, whether or not you're turned off. But climb on there sometime. You can look at bills. You can keep track of bills. They organize bills by subject matter. So even if you have an interest in something that's unrelated to our universe, let's just pick a subject. Gambling, which I shouldn't use that one as an example because you're probably all gamblers. But if you have a subject that's just kind of intriguing to you, I'll pick drones. Okay, drones are fun. Drones are kind of hip right now. You can follow the bills related to drones, and you can look on that site and you can listen to the testimony. You can listen to proponents talking about whether they're making changes to the drones. You can listen to the opponents saying why we shouldn't do it. You can listen to people that also gives you, and you can do that in the privacy of your own home. You can listen to all you need is a laptop and an internet connection, and you can listen to that stuff. Nobody knows, nobody cares. There's also, as time goes forward, you're going to see there's online testimony. So there may be a day when you want to be able to testify and you're able to do it on a subject that you got some expertise. You're going to be able to do that online. You don't have to come to peer like it used to be. So, but you can climb on that site privately and listen to testimony all you want. It's just a hoot. And there isn't anything, it's one of my favorite things about the legislature is that you learn so much about so many things that you didn't even know you cared about. But you just can't help it because you're going to hear why we should do this, and you're going to hear why we shouldn't do this from experts on all sides. And then you're going to hear arguments about it and discussions about it. You can't come away without learning stuff. So if you have a subject matter that you care about, look through that index and find something. And it'll give you all the bill numbers. You can go right to the bill numbers and you can listen to the testimony. And then you can sit and you can practice along yourselves. No one will even know. And you can get better yourself. So know the subject is the first thing you need to do, and you're already light years ahead of us. So then comes the lobby part, establish a relationship. Now, if you're going to reach out to a legislator, it's an easy way to do it. Just put yourself in their shoes. Pretend you're a legislator tomorrow. You're going to want to know everything about everything that comes in front of you, just because you want to do the best job you can. So your mission is to reach out before the election. Doesn't have to be, but earlier is best, just to say, hey, if you haven't had the opportunity, if you're familiar with an organization, you're familiar with these people, then just know that they watch all the legislations that's related to us, that's related to the disabilities. And it's a wide, broad brush of stuff. It's a lot of things. And they're watching that all the time. So would you be comfortable with my contacting you if some of those issues come up? I will guarantee you that they'll say yes, because they will, because they want to know, because they want to do the best job they can as a legislature. So it's really, really easy. You can say, hey, just want to introduce myself. I watch all the legislative stuff I have for a long time, and I've been doing a little bit of practicing. I've been doing a little bit of schooling. I'm getting pretty good at it. So there'll be subjects that come up that I'm going to be watching. Are you okay if I reach out to you during the legislative session? And they'll say, by all means, here's my contact information. They absolutely will do that. So establish a relationship with your legislators. On that SouthDakotaLegislator.gov site, you literally can go on that site and type in your address or look at a map and they'll tell you who your legislator is. Absolutely foolproof. So go right on there, find out who your legislator is, and then reach out to them and say, hey, congratulations on your service. Saw that you're up in November. Want to let you know that I watched this legislative process really closely and I really like it. And sometimes things come along that are going to affect me and it can affect my folks and affect my friends and affects all the people around me. Are you comfortable if I reach out to you with those things? And they'll say yes. So, and just pretend they're them. Pretend you're them. Just tell them that, I just want to make sure that you guys are doing the best job you can and I can help with that on these subjects. And they're going to say, oh my God, thank you so much for calling. So the relationship part is really, really easy. And then the know your audience, you can't just call and yell at them. You can once, they just won't take it the second time. So, because that's just not the way. I mean, they're public servants. So know your subject, know what you want, have yourself a little bit organized. The other thing is that while you're doing that, is you may discover things that you didn't know. Um, there's an awful lot of people, like I've said, I've lobbied for the firefighters for, 40, 30 plus years. There's a lot of people that are volunteer firefighters that don't really advertise that because they're in peers. So they're not serving here. They're firefighters back home. Well, I always try to find those guys because they're pretty good advocates for us in the legislature. So you might find people that are connected to you or who's got a son or a daughter or a relative or somebody that's got some challenges that they're already familiar with. And those guys can be your best allies and some of your friends. And then if you're them, they're going to want to know as much as they can. They're going to want to get smarter. They're going to want to be sharper. They're going to want to know more about the stuff. And you're going to be the one that can do that. So if they can't, and I said, be realistic. I put in there no until you convince me otherwise. Let me talk about that for a second. I won't bring up old stories very often, but Don Rounds, who's dead now, Don is the Mike Rounds' father. Larry Gabriel was a former legislator. Don was a lobbyist. Larry Gabriel was a legislator. He used to say, and I think this will make sense to you. He used to say, I'm a no until you convince me yes, or you can convince me otherwise. It's like, oh my God, you're just being hard-headed. And he would say, no, all that means is that I'm pretty comfortable with the way things work. And I respect the process that got us here. None of these decisions were made easily. None of this stuff happened by accident. All the stuff in the Constitution is there intentionally. All the stuff in statute and administrative rules are there intentionally. None of that stuff is an accident. So I'm going to trust the people that put it there. I'm going to trust the process that got it there. So no, I don't want to change anything unless you convince me it's a better idea. Because I know that we're doing it this way for a reason. So not uncommon. A lot of people are asking them to do the same thing that I'm asking you to do right now. So they're all getting a lot of asks. So sometimes they just got to sort them out. So sometimes you just got to be persistent, but they're going to want the help. So on the message, make sure it's timely. I was I was moderating a peer chamber candidate forum probably 2 years ago when a bunch of protesters came in and took over the meeting or made an awful lot of noise, were pretty obnoxious about a bill that had been defeated 2 days before that. So congratulations, thanks for coming by. The thing is dead and it's gone. So I managed to, we took care of them, but they were late. They were wrong. They didn't even know. So pretty makes sense that you're on time, which goes to that system, goes to that process. All that legislative website will tell you exactly when stuff is going on. Know what you want. You can't call and say, what do you can ask them what they think, but they're going to want to know what you think. And then they're going to know if you have an answer. So don't ask them a question unless you kind of have an answer to it, because that's what they're going to want to know. So have a specific ask. And then is it compelling? Are we doing it because it just makes me feel better? Yeah, that's not that compelling. Are we doing it because it affects just you? Well, that matters to you. Does that matter to everybody else? Maybe not. Are you doing something that benefits the larger audience and helps a lot of people and does a lot of good? Well, in that particular case, the answer to that is, well, then yes, that's pretty compelling. Then they're going to care. If you can show me that we're going to save time, we're going to save energy, we're going to save money, we're going to do better by the people, by God, they're all over that kind of stuff. So be short as best you can, be specific as best you can, make it unique to yourself as best you can, and then just be consistent. And then I put in there, and this is the lobbyist part, so you're becoming professionals now. Expect them to be non-committal because they probably will, because they're just going to say, well, I appreciate your coming to me. Let me think about that. They'll really be thinking about that. They just don't want to make any promises that they're going to have to break a little bit later on. And then blame Devin or blame me and say, I sat through the goofy Zoom call and they said I needed to call you, so I'm calling you. So blame somebody else if it makes you more comfortable because they'll just laugh and then they'll care. Then they'll listen to you. So on the don't, it's a short list. Don't lie to them. Don't make things up. Don't call to yell at somebody and don't call and abuse them because they don't care. They don't want to do that and it's kind of counterproductive. So that's a load in an hour. It's the reason that I got on it, Devin. I don't know if you'll send those guys my notes once we get off or how that all works. You can go through those at your leisure. So have you got any questions for me? I want to leave some time at the end for questions. Is there anything that you're just wondering? I'm just a lobbyist. I'll tell you anything. I'm not a counsel. I don't need your votes. So I can tell you anything. I can be truthful. So
Hey,
yeah, what do you
hey,
got there?
Steve. This is Derek Smith. Nice to meet you, Steve.
You
Um,
too.
just curiosity, just to let you know, can you give us an update on the bill issues that we're facing, like transportation, health issues, like health, like Medicaids, like different issues that comes up in the mind. So can you give us a rundown of like certain issues that we're facing right now?
That's a
Like
great
special,
question.
like
I'm reaching
special
for a
education,
pen.
like that?
I'm reaching for a pen to see if I can organize myself there a little bit. And I want to give you a thoughtful answer to that. So I'm going to give you my first reaction, then I'll probably give you something a little bit more thoughtful.
Yeah,
Um,
I decided
probably
to throw it out
yeah,
there.
no,
So
the first thing is that there's just not enough money to go around to do everything. So probably like a lot of other things, they're financially strapped. The state's really strapped. They make a big deal about the fact that we're a low tax, full service state. Well, that matters if you're a recipient of the services. So finances probably comes to the top of that list.
yeah,
Um, I would go second, and this is my own, I'd say these not in any particular order, but probably in my own mind, education and the IEPs. Um, what they're doing in the schools to be accommodating to try to take care of everybody who's in the schools with special needs. So those IEPs are a big deal. And they're a real continuing challenge for the schools and for the legislators because they want to do, as you can imagine, we've got more needs than cash. We've got more people with challenges than coin. It's just so everybody can't have everything. So what happens out here is they say no all the time. They're just trying to balance stuff. So that's a lot of related to the finances, but IEPs would show up on that one as well. So that one I would really care about. Um, I've always been personally a little chapped with some of the work requirements that come along with it. When I lobbied through the adjustment training centers, we had a lot of contracts where we could do an awful lot of things in businesses, and they just continued to dial down on those to make the jobs harder to get, harder to keep. And those are always tough. Those jobs were tough. Um, and there's a lot of employers out there that want to do some stuff. The restrictions got to be so heavy that nobody could anymore. And that was an ongoing challenge for us. We talked when we were in Pier last session, we were talking about adult changing tables, which completely came out of the blue. And it was a fabulous conversation because we were trying to figure out, it's like, okay, we can't do that everywhere, but we were talking about the challenges that come along with some of the kids, that are adults now, and the challenges that come along with public places. And it's like, well, gosh, we'd be trying to figure out, if you could do that, do it anywhere. Well, so we're talking, the rest stops or the parks. So, adult changing tables, which is a fairly I, I wouldn't say that's not a big thing, but it's not. I mean, they take up some room, but God, it seems like an accommodation we could make that we could to make it a little easier and figure out a way to get that information out there. That's the one that just came completely out of the blue last year that we talked about. Um, so let's see, finances, IEPs, jobs. I'll put adult changing tables on that list, but I could probably call that accommodations. Let me do this. Let me do a typical lobby thing, but part of the reason I've been around a long time, why don't you tell me the top two, three that are important to you? Because that's what you're going to do these legislators too. You're going to ask them. So why don't you hit me with a couple? What matters the most to you? Or at least how are you affected the most that you think needs the most change?
Right. And especially my top two, my suggestion is sp special education, but not only that, um, you know, um, transportation.
Yeah. So, okay, so dial that down for a little bit for me. Tell me a little bit more about those.
So let me explain. So,
Yeah.
because I live in Sioux Falls, because I live 39 blocks from the bus stop from Hy-Vee, the
Where,
39
hey,
blocks.
let me ask you, my house is on West 88th Street in Sioux Falls. Where are you at in Sioux Falls? Give me a sense of your geography.
So I'm on 63rd and Sycamore. So like
Okay.
I'm on
Oh, then I know right where you are. Okay. All right. I'm
so,
on 88th and Western.
so not only that, Steve, when we try to do the bus stop
Yeah.
and what happens is they won't go to my nearest bus stop right by between Hy-Vee on 26 bus stop there and to my house. That really lacks of bus stops. And
Yeah.
what happens is um the like now the Uber costs a little more expensive because you don't know how much that would be because that's an issue around here. And the other thing
Yeah.
is you have to get interviewed by a bus stop each time.
Sure. In a case like that, and this isn't a legislative answer, but the legislature will do that too. Sometimes the best solutions to some of your problems are local ones, because when the legislators like that,
Yeah.
I wonder who makes the decisions on the bus stops. Does it be your local transportation, or is that something we could take to the mayor? I mean, Christine,
Yeah,
you're
I am trying to get on the transportation board of the city of Sioux Falls,
awesome.
and I've been like I have not been attending the meetings because I have been doing like other
Okay.
stuff.
Okay.
But like I am trying my hardest to advocate for others and me
Yeah.
because like Derek said, I'm I work at Hy-Vee
I
on
love
Minnesota
TV.
37th, and
Yeah.
yeah, they take me right to the bus stop, but like not really. Sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
But
Sometimes it helps to start small. Is
Mhm.
there a particular, I mean, if you couldn't fix the system, is there a particular stop that makes a lot of sense that you could show them the impact or that you could demonstrate the results? Is there a particular stop? I mean, is the one by you, Derek, would that be one that would be get an awful lot of use? I mean, is there some place where we could cherry pick the geography down there and put a stop and actually show them the impact that it makes? Because if you do that
yeah.
and then you demonstrate some success with it, they're going to say, you
Yeah.
know what, you guys were right last time. What do you think about this one again? So
Right.
sometimes you can take off a little tiny bite of this stuff and get a lot of work done.
Mhm.
Not yeah, and I wouldn't mind doing that, Steve. But another thing is I would like to be part of the transport, like those councils, but kind of like those transportation council,
Right.
Mhm.
because I want to share my story of why I'm so concerned about the transportation right now that we're
I
in.
am too, Derek.
Yeah.
I am really
Are
concerned
there
because Sioux Falls is growing
A
like
very
lot.
much
fast,
big
Yeah.
time?
big time,
Yeah.
and the bus does not go like when I lived at Country Meadows, a Lifescape, the bus does not go further than that. So it's just a disappointment for me.
Sure.
So, mhm.
Yeah, it's really pulling people out of the community. We
Mhm.
were just doing a monitoring at Cayman Court, which is out like on 60th and I don't know, kind of out by that 60th Street Walmart, that Casey's and
Yep.
stuff
Okay.
out there.
Okay.
And they had a bus stop. And a lot of their individuals, they had developmental and intellectual disabilities, and they took the bus to go out to the community and do stuff. And then when they switched to SAM on demand, the SAM on demand wasn't reliable, but they took that bus stop out. So now those individuals can't do things like they did. because 60th
Awesome.
Street's pretty far away from everything. And so now that group home, they can't they can't do anything unless staff takes them.
Is there an opportunity? McKinney, you've been going. Are those public meetings? Is there an opportunity for Derek to get on an agenda somewhere or somebody to get
And
Yes.
on
be
that
part
and
of
tell
So,
that story?
part of the council of the transportation.
Yeah.
yes, I will give, I will get, oh my gosh, I will email, I will email, his name is Bren. I will email Bren for you, and then I'll send you the website, the link, Derek, okay?
Awesome. Okay.
And then
Um,
do you have the application for for me to be part of the council for that as well? Like
yeah,
I will look right now.
it's just my thought
Yeah, of course.
that's a good idea.
because I'm at a point where I just want to be part of the council to where um share my story, but knowing
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that I just want to share my Special Olympics experience as well, just along the
Mm-hmm.
way.
right, right. They so in that particular case, Derek, a couple things come to mind. First one, the mayor's a very good friend. So that could help us a little bit. The other one, the recently retired city planner, Jeff Eckhoff, was in my wedding and just stayed at my house like 3 nights ago. So is also a very good friend. So where I was going to go with that is that in your particular case, they're going to want to know your story. They're going to hear that, but they're going to want to know that the impact is bigger than you.
Yep.
They're going to want to know. So in a particular case like that one, suggestion would be for you guys who want to serve in the council that you're there representing an awful lot of like-minded people that have the same challenges, and that you're not there just because you want to be. You're there because they need to hear from you and some of the people in your community.
Yep.
So I think that's the way to get you on there. You're a token representative, but that means you're there for particular reasons so they can find out what those challenges are. And I would sit, I hadn't thought about that one. Um, I would I would pick one, maybe it's the one by the Walmart. That's the one that my wife goes to all the time. Um, I would pick a bus stop or two or a particular location or two where it really, really matters. And I would start with there because if you go in for a system-wide thing, they'll just run scared. But if you go in with one, and it's a reasonable ask, and you can demonstrate the impact, and then you can follow up to say, look, here's why it worked, and here's what we did, and here's the impact of all this stuff. Then one becomes two, two becomes four, and four becomes however many. So I would give some thought to that map and figure out a place. And it would be a great idea for you guys. I bet we could get you a hearing with people that are involved with that.
And also,
And
I wouldn't mind giving my contact information as well, because I want to, if they have questions, don't hesitate to have them check up
well,
with me and give me
wouldn't you
like a call
Wouldn't
like
you?
that.
I wish they'd have had questions. Did anybody reach out to anybody? And I wonder how that, I'm sure they probably have some public input. I wonder how that whole process worked. I didn't follow that very closely. But
So,
good.
Derek, I just sent you the link of City of Sioux Falls, by the
Or
way.
the email, whatever. Yep.
Yep.
You're so awesome. I'd have hung up on you if I'd have tried multitasking like that. You already got more skills. Both of you do than I do. Way more skills.
Um,
I'd have blown that if I'd have done that in a heartbeat. Then would have to get me back on the line.
I think that
so
they did have several sessions, public listening sessions and things where people were putting input and they were looking for people from the disability community.
Yeah,
And don't quote me on this, but I think one of our attorneys left and was at least I think for some time working over in like transportation. And so that was nice knowing that there was somebody there who'd been a part of the community.
yeah.
I don't know if he is now, but I feel like
That,
it kind of started going and they were trying to work on stuff and then it just stopped.
sure. I got to
um,
imagine they tried. It's hard to tell how well that went. Yeah, Derek.
Right.
another thing to us, Steve, I got to know my new friend, Mike Huther, was a
Oh, did you?
former
Good
mayor
one. Yeah, he's a
because
pretty good mayor
I
for Sioux
told him the
Falls.
issue, but not only that, um, and then the we had Cole Euchre and the team from the Disability Rights went
Yeah,
to Minnehaha Court for Judge
Yeah.
Mazan, whatever. Uh,
Yep.
yeah,
And nothing.
right.
Yeah, I don't like giving up like that. Cole's pretty good hand.
Yeah.
I'd be curious. So, are you cool if I reach out to Cole and ask him a little bit more about that and how that process went?
Yeah, then I'll give you my contact information, Steve,
Good.
so in case if
You
you
just
want
share all
to.
that with Devin. She can share it with me. And then I
Yeah,
think Devin's got mine. I'll give you guys my cell number and you've probably got my email. I will share my stuff with any one of you as well. So
yeah,
you're welcome to
because I
all.
would like to catch up with you, and
I'd enjoy that very
talk about
much.
that too. So
They um they need to hear from the community. They really do. And they're going to want to be responsive. In the end, it comes down probably to dollars. It almost always does. But that's a case of where then you just make the biggest impact you can with a single one, and then you just ride that success to something else. So we just take a bite that we can manage, and you put them in a position that they can be successful for you,
hmm
because they're going to want to be.
Yeah.
Well, that's
yeah.
awesome. So, David, you put your mic on. You got a question?
Well, um, I don't think I have anything to say, but uh, yeah, I'm not sure what issues that I can think of that are going on in Madison. So, yeah,
You're in a
I've
little
got,
bit smaller of a community, right, David?
yeah.
Do you walk? Do you take the bus, or what do you do there?
Well, I walk to work, and I'm actually able to walk further down, like
okay,
downtown, like Fit Five, and one of these days I might need to use a transit bus to get to the grocery store, so I don't have to have my mom take me to
sure.
the grocery store all the time.
Well, that seems, and that's, I said these legislators start a lot of times as school board members or city council members or however. That's the same way that we would start. We would start someplace local. We would start someplace smaller. We could start someplace we could get our heads around and we could really grind into something. I would be delighted to help you guys with that.
Yep.
Not only that, Steve, I live over on it's kind of 63rd Sycamore, but not only
Yeah.
that, my work is over at 69th and Southeastern, so it's
Oh,
like
Lord.
roundabouts. So it's kind
Yeah.
of hard to
Okay.
get the bus
Yeah.
stop there.
Yeah, I know exactly where you're at then. Wow. 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 I can't thank you guys enough for doing this. What a glutton on a Thursday afternoon. You guys are going to sit and do this and listen. Oh, my Lord. So, Devin, you've got I absolutely, you can share my contact information with everybody. You got it.
Perfect.
And
Yes.
then you'll all have it. Um, and I just got, there's Derek's right there. That's awesome. Um, See, I would have hung up, Derek. I don't know how to do that. Perfect. I think Devin's probably got it too. So,
Yeah.
but that's the case. That'd be a great one to start with because they, they love wins. They love successes. They
hmm
really do. And they celebrate successes. So our job is to find one for them and to help them get it done. And then they'll celebrate it. They sincerely will. So I'd love to help you guys figure that one out.
And then I heard then I got to see Jamie Smith,
Yeah,
the
Jamie's a good guy too.
yeah,
Two
and he
votes.
outlasted. I just got to see him at the politics in the park, whatever,
Yeah, good one. Good for you.
and because of that, um, I just saw he lost the election to the
Oh,
mayor.
It sucked. And it was like, come on,
I
so
know, two votes.
close.
I know, two votes. How crazy is that? 35,000. Hey, and they tell you voting doesn't matter.
Right.
Oh,
35,000 votes in a two
Oh
vote
Oh,
margin.
boy.
yeah. Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it
I
matters.
and when
So
I saw
yeah,
those numbers too, I was like, there's like what 136,000 like registered voters, and 36,000 people voted. I was like, that's insane.
I know that's insane. It's like
Um,
24%. That's crazy. I know. Wait and see what we do if you haven't voted yet. You got a governor primary coming up here in a few days. So you got to
Mhm.
vote. That one's coming up on 28th. Because wait and see. We could do an over under that one. You think we'll do better than 24%? I don't know. So 25% is going to be deciding probably who the next governor is.
And
Yeah.
That's
another
crazy.
thing too is I got to see Dan Allers as
Oh,
well.
Dan's a really good guy too.
He's
Yeah,
running.
Dan's all of those guys. Jamie, served and did a nice job in the legislature. Christine served in the legislature for a long time. So did Dan. So
Mhm.
all of those guys are legislators. All three of them are friends. We bought our house from Jamie. Christine, I've known forever. She worked in the Department of Revenue here in Pierre for a long time. So I've known Christine the longest. But Jamie's a dear friend, and Dan is a really great guy. So
Mhm.
they're all friends. So how'd I do, Devin, for 90 or 60 minutes?
I think it's
Seriously,
perfect.
I know you're
Yeah.
all thinking, oh my God, don't do it in a day and a half next time. Please give us an hour. That was brutal. I'm a lot more fun in person, just saying.
Does anybody
Wow.
else have any questions? Anything else they want to bring up?
Another thing too is Jack Colbeck is running for representative again,
Yeah, he
so
is.
I thought that's really good.
Jack's
But
a good guy.
um, yeah,
See,
and
that's
I
my
just heard
district. That's
of
Sue Peterson, John Hughes, and Jack Colbeck.
yep, because I'm on District 13 with
You
on
and me
Lincoln
both.
County.
I
Yeah,
am too now. I've lived in Pierre for 30 years. We just changed our registration before this last go round. So you and I are in the same legislative district. So
right.
Colbeck's a friend too. Colbeck also sits on appropriations. So
Yep.
not only is Jack a good person, he's a good friend, but Jack also's got his hand on the purse strings out here. So Jack's a really good one to
Right.
know and listen to because he watches the checkbook and he takes it pretty seriously.
Right.
Very good for you. Well, then you've already got a couple of great contacts.
Yep.
You know, you've got, yeah. I mean, Sue Peterson's got some sway in the Senate. Hughes is an attorney and a pretty discerning guy, and Jack has got a lot of sway in appropriations. So that's good. You and I are in the same district.
Yep.
So that also means that with any one of those guys, with Jack in particular, you could bring me up and say, "Oh my God, I didn't want to do this, but Willard said I had to." You could absolutely blame me, throw me under the bus in a heartbeat.
Right.
Jack would just smile and he would say, "Oh," he would just shake his head. In
Right.
a heartbeat, you could.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate all the information that you have to give us.
Well, I
And
appreciate what you're doing and what you guys are too.
Pleasure meeting you, Steve.
You too. Appreciate it. Good to see you again, McKenna.
Yes, good
Everybody
to
else,
see
David.
you.
Yeah. All right. All right.
thank
Take care,
you.
Devin. Anytime.
All right, Steve.
All right. All right. See y'all.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Awesome. Does anybody have any questions, comments?
No.
No.
Sounds like some of our Sioux Falls people have some action items. If you're interested in being a part of that, I sent information over to Steve. So, and then you guys should all have his email on the flyer that I sent. At the bottom of it has his email on there. So,
Perfect.
Okay.
yeah. Wonderful. Okay. Well, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. If you have any questions, please let me know. We will, I think we have one up. We have to render the things. That's why I'm learning. So I appreciate your patience in that. I'm learning to render the stuff and how to do it right and transcribe it and all those things. So they are up. I believe we have the first one or two on our YouTube page. So you should be able to go on there if you want to look back at it at all. But yeah, if you have any questions, just send me an email or give me a call.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right. You guys have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you,
Thank
Devin. Thank you.
you.
Bye.
Bye.